GT the Vibe Podcast coming at you with another episode. I appreciate you guys rocking with me for so long. I'm gonna continue to push that my book is coming out, trauma bonded this summer. That's the goal. I'm typing through it, going through it. It's an emotional type. I will tell you that because you kind of have to relive some stuff that you don't want to relive essentially. And so that's the hardest part for me is kind of like having to keep rehashing things and go over these things and kind of uh, relive some moments in my life that you finally push past and you kind of get over and move on to the next level. But when you decide to share your story with people, you got to kind of like go back through it, so you kind of get to relive it. And even looking at it back on the things now with a different, fresh perspective, you can see even more crazy stuff that you didn't even see before. You're just like, man, I did not realize, what was I thinking? I didn't realize that. So essentially, if you don't know what trauma bond is, it is an unhealthy attachment to an individual that does not have your best interest at hand. Typically, um, people use all these big old words online that I don't like. I'm not a fan of throwing around narcissist and all that stuff. People use it a lot, and I think that one thing my counselor told me um, back in the days, he said, everybody has a level of narcissism. Like we're all on this long scale. Think about a long scale. And so everybody's somewhere on the scale. I mean, even me, like I may think that I'm better than everybody else and that type of mind, that could be considered narcissistic, right? But that's just me just being competitive. That's just how I am, right? So they're on there on the spectrum at some point in time. Where I think people overuse it is you might have somebody that does you dirty in a relationship, and oh well, he was grandiose, so that makes him narcissist. No, that just means he was grandiose. Like he may, like narcissistic people, it's a continuous pattern over a long period of time. Like it's continuous, consistent, long period of time. Then borderlines, any of the cluster B personality disorders, consistent. So and you'll see the trend. Like you'll be looking at like that's definitely a trend over time. It's not just a oh man, well this person just he's kind of arrogant. He don't like women. Just because somebody don't like women don't mean that they're a narcissist. Just like if you know a female doesn't like men, oh she's a narcissist. Like no, but I think the terms are thrown around so much. I never use the terms in my book, trauma bonded, because I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of that type of stuff. Do I believe that borderlines and narcissistic people exist? Absolutely. There are people out there that are absolute monsters. Yes. Do I believe that there are people that exhibit traits that aren't absolute monsters? Yes. There are people out there that exhibit traits of narcissism, sorry, or borderline personality disorder, or any of the cluster Bs. Like you got multiple personality disorder, it's histrionic, and all that kind of stuff. So yes, there are people out there that exhibit traits, but they're not full blown on the scale diagnosable. It's a low percentage of people that are actually diagnosed with that stuff, and most people that are narcissists, obviously, they're not going to go get. They don't think there's a problem with themselves, so they're not going to go get help anyway. So the numbers could fluctuate, could be different, but I focus more in my book on um, the trauma bond and like the red flags, right? The things that you think are good, but they actually aren't really good. In the beginning, constant communication via text, not good. You like it feels good in the moment because you're like, man, somebody's paying attention to me. But over time, you see that that's not healthy. Like you should, I mean, yeah, you should text your person every now and again, check on them. How you doing, babe? What's for dinner? That type of thing. Like that's normal communication between two healthy people. Um, Over communicating and overly communicating all the time, that's not healthy. That's not two healthy people. That's a problem. Because what happens is your brain, your body changes the way that it thinks about this stuff. And so once it changes, any kind of change in the pattern of behavior that led your body to feel a certain way, you start to overthink it. So now you're just like, dude, like, where did I mess up? They're not texting me back quick. 2, 3 hours goes by. They're not texting me back. Did I mess up? And you start to think like that. Like I thought like that. And my body was telling me something was off. And so it's the small things like that. They buy you stuff in the beginning, a lot of stuff, and it's just like, dude, like you have never been showered with gifts like this before. Like I was, my mom always told me if it's too good to be true, it probably is. I should have listened, but I didn't. And so I put myself in a position then now I'm writing a book about the position that I was in. Um, but seriously, it's like all the stuff in me. And it's like people will get you to trust them with their emotions, and then you start telling them stuff, and you realize the stuff that you told them is being used against you, just like you're in the court of law, essentially. And I'm law enforcement, so yes, that's the way I talk. Yes, um, but seriously, the book focuses on red flags. It focuses on the experience, beginning, middle, end. Um, it also talks about my childhood, some things that I've been through in my childhood, and it focuses on the job as a detective. So obviously some of the parts are fictional. I don't put people's real names in there and all that jazz. Uh, but it's a detective with the Dallas Police Department. He's in a DV crime unit, so he deals with domestic violence, and so he finds a case and can see some of the things that he went through within the case, and so now he's reminiscing back on his past and his dealings with this type of person as he's working the case, and that's the beauty of the book. It just kind of like intertwines current events with past trauma. Um, and honestly, like I said, I focus more. Obviously, I tell the story of the abuser, but I focus more on the victim and what the victim's going through. You know, the obstacles that the victim's overcoming, right? The constant flashbacks of things that happened in the past, constant memories that pop up. So I focus more on what the individual was actually going through because I think that that's the story that's rarely told. Like a lot of times, you just get told about what a narcissist is, they do this, they do that, or a borderline person is, or whatever. But you don't never get the other side of the mentally abused. You don't get the person, the victim, to just be able to lay it out there and say, "This is what I experienced." And the number one key that I want people to get out of the book is that it's okay to ask for help. I got great friends. I have great friends. I got female friends I would call sisters, male friends I would call my brothers, like family. And one thing that I didn't do was reach out. When I needed help, I did not. I didn't reach out. And it wasn't that I didn't trust my friends or anything like that. You get isolated to a point where you feel like you have to do it on your own now. And so, and because I know if I'd reached out if I'd have reached out to my peeps, you know what I'm saying, they would have, if some things would have happened and some shit would have been shut the hell down. But I did. I tried to handle it on my own. And when I say went through the battle, um, I went through the battle. Like I mean, I had a depressive like month and a half. I mean, I remember a buddy of mine. I was working bike patrol, and she asked me, she's like, "Man, you're quiet. Are you okay?" And I remember riding home after that, like crying in the car because I'm just like, "Dang!" Like my friends notice a change in like how I am because they know how I am. I'm always upbeat. I'm always outgoing, constantly talking, like talking about work, talking about life, talking about kids, talking about family, talking about being better, talking about how to get better. And I was quiet. I was quiet. I was going through some things. And so, and even just kind of looking back over time, like how I changed individually from a happy, optimistic person to this person that's just standoffish, that pessimistic, doesn't, and just quiet, not really having conversation with my friends. I kind of push my friends away at a distance. There's some friends that stay close because that's just who they are. They're not gonna let you push, right? When you get a friend like that that's not gonna let you push, you keep them 110%. But the battles inside my mind and inside my body that I was going through were tough, tough. Um, and so it kind of like gives you the perspective of the other side that you really get to hear that story, right? There was a murder, homicide last year, and it was a pastor of the church murder. Well, we think that he possibly might have had something to do with his wife's death. It's ruled as a suicide, but she went through this, right? And so her story, we didn't get to hear her story because people didn't pay attention. She didn't reach out. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could have changed the perception or changed the trajectory where she was going, but they weren't taken. And so this gives people the view of what it looks like, the things that happen to somebody who's going through this. And so one thing I will tell you guys is your body doesn't lie. My body was telling me every single day the truth, and I was not listening until I had to listen. And then when I had to listen, oh, let me tell you, it's like you you get so used to certain things in life, right? You get certain routines, and you mess up the routine, and your body reacts to you messing up the routine. That's what essentially what happened. And so I had to go through the physical elements too, battling that as well as the mental. And one thing that I found that helped me the absolute utmost was I changed the type of music that I listened to. I started listening to Christian music. I was like, man, I got to listen to something different because it's not helping. The stuff I'm listening to is not helping. I mean, I love Chris Stapleton to death, but he wasn't that wasn't the type of noise and sound that I needed for that season that I was in. And then coming out on the other side of it, you come out stronger, you come out healthier. You realize that there was a void in me. There was something I had to work on myself personally, something I was missing, right? Um, and I don't hold any ill will toward the individual. I don't hold no hate, no nothing. Um, I get it. Like I understand that that person also has things that voids that they're trying to fill too. But I had to focus on my voids. Like how do I fill my cup? How do I get the holes out of my cup? How do I tape over or fix the cup to where I can fill? Because I can't pour into my people if I'm losing liquid constantly. I'm losing that love for myself. I'm losing the affirmation that I have for myself constantly. I can't pour into anybody else if I can't get myself together first. And I'll say that's what I want you to take from the book for the most part. Is that um, pour into yourself. Put time into you. Understand who you are. Understand your purpose, and that will help you navigate through life and avoid getting yourself in these type of situations. But I appreciate you guys rocking with me, GT the Vibe podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share. I'm gonna have another one that's gonna kind of second this because I try to keep it the 10 to 12 minute mark, and I'm kind of getting close. But I'll post another one that's gonna be a little bit of a continuation of this one. Appreciate you guys. I'm out.